All right, we're going to continue with our media availabilities here at Iowa Speedway. We are joined by Justin Allgaier, driver of the number 7 Junior Motorsports Chevrolet. Justin, you have Brant on the car this weekend, a home race for them, kind of one of your home tracks as well. What does it mean for you to be here at Iowa for Brant and yourself?
Well, obviously it's that's loud. Obviously it's good to get back to the Midwest and get back to Iowa Speedway. You know, this has been I think for a lot of us that have been around the sport for a number of years, you know, especially the guys that maybe have transitioned on or still in the Xfinity series to come back here to Iowa. Such a great facility and a lot of fun for many years. I sat back and we were kind of reminiscing on some of the really cool finishes that we've had here at this racetrack, and it's pretty wild to think about really how long this racetrack's been around and been a part of it. But good to be back, and good to be back, like I said, in the Midwest. Lots of cornfields as you drive in, so to have the Brant car with all the corn on it definitely makes it a lot of fun. And you know, this racetrack is obviously a really cool racetrack. We don't really know a whole lot with the new pavement that we're going to be up against, but at the same time, you're looking forward to see what the race holds.
So we'll open it up to questions. We'll start here with Zach, then go to Bob.
Zach Sterniolo, NASCAR.com. As someone who's from this general part of the country, to see the Cup Series here as well, you've had so much experience making laps around this place yourself. To see the Cup Series finally here as well, what more does that add to a weekend like this?
Well, you know, I think for years we kind of always thought that it was inevitable, right? Probably nobody expected it to be the case the way that it kind of transitioned into it. You know, I felt like when we were having some of those really successful weekends here that it would just make natural sense to add the Cup Series back years ago. But at the same time, you know, I do know that there were some logistical challenges, and you know, I think that there's obviously been a lot of renovations to the outer side of the facility, you know, not just the on-track stuff that we've seen this last month and a half, 2 months, but really over the last number of years. You know, IndyCar has obviously been strong here, and they've done a great job of updating the facilities and being a part of that. So, you know, I definitely know that as the track is concerned, you know, I think they've solved some of the infrastructure problems that they needed to have a Cup Series race here, and I think that it was the right fit in the schedule this year. You know, it's we had an opening, we had a spot, and I feel like, you know, it's warmer than I expected it to be. I mean, I've been from the Midwest my whole life, and I know how hot it gets in the middle of summer, but a little warmer than I expected it to be. But at the same time, you know, I think with the Cup race is 6 o'clock, I think, on Sunday night, so kind of a late evening race. So, you know, should be beautiful weather for that. I don't know. I've thought that the Cup car should be here for a long time, and to finally have that happen, and to kind of add, you know, a crown jewel race to the Midwest, right? So you've got Chicago, you've got Indianapolis. You know, this one's obviously a really cool facility, and I think has the potential to be a really great race on the schedule if everything goes well. You know, so I think it's cool to have that Midwest kind of covered, and you know, these fans here are truly special. You know, you go to Knoxville any Saturday night and right up the street and watch the dirt track racing that goes on there. Grandstands are packed and the place is happening. You know, I feel like that we've kind of missed that fan that's maybe not at this racetrack in particular, you know, over the last couple of years with the Cup Series not being here.
Bob Pockris, Fox Sports. Where the new pavement ends right at the start of the restart zone, like, is the front row at a disadvantage?
Well, without divulging any thought processes of my own of what I'm thinking whenever it comes to restart zones, I don't know the answer to that. I think that it's going to take a time or two to kind of see, you know, what that looks like. You know, it is unique in that regard. I don't feel like there's any other racetracks we go to that have really had like a patch or any type of pavement work done kind of leading up to a restart zone, especially not that close at least. I think the outside row, it ends maybe, 5-10 feet before, and then the inside row is, you know, quite a bit before. So, you know, as much as I would say that the front row might be at a disadvantage, I almost feel like second and third row on the inside might actually be the biggest disadvantage, just because there's really not going to be any way of getting around that. So, you know, I don't know, that there's a lot of question marks as to what the straight line grip will be between the two different ones. So if you launched, is it going to be easier to hook up on the old or on the new? I feel like while the mid-corner speeds are a little bit faster because of the new pavement, sometimes it can be a little bit slick because it's less porous, right? So there's more sealer on top of it. and sometimes just longitudinally it's a little bit harder to get a hold of. Laterally obviously has more grip, but longitudinally it has a little less grip sometimes. So just a lot of question marks. And then I think you add in old tires, new tires. I mean, for the Xfinity Series, we only have 4 sets total for the race, so only 3 laying. So you're going to go 75 laps, I think, on each stage on 1 set of tires, and only have 1 set in that last, go for the end of the race. So you're going to have some restarts on old tires on both types of pavement too. So there's a lot to be thought about, and I think that we've spent a lot of time questioning what it's going to race like here this weekend, and until we actually get out there and do it, I don't think any of us know what to expect.
Steve Post, Motor Racing Network. Beyond the restart zone, just turn 1, the entry to turn number 1 looks like the old pavement. What's your best guess? What are you going to be looking for? What are the early laps of that practice session? What do you want to try to learn as you go into so much uncertainty?
Yeah, I mean, I think we obviously know that new pavement, you can typically be a little bit stiffer, you can be a little bit lower, you have all the grip in the world. It doesn't look like you're going to be able to get there without kind of bouncing around a little bit. The straightaways still have a lot of character, and still that old pavement and still slick, right? So both turn 1 and turn 3, you're turning in across the old pavement. You really don't hit the new pavement until you're completely loaded in the corner. So, you're going to have to transition really, really well, and I think that one beauty of that is that Iowa Speedway has always kind of been that way. You had to get into the corner before you could even worry about making the center turn. I don't think that's going to change. It's only had age and time on it since we were last year, and I don't think that's gotten any better. As far as tires go, I think we're on a fairly hard tire, just because of new pavement in the corners, and you have to be mindful of that new pavement and how much stress it puts on the tire. So now you take a hard tire that you're going to be turning across the old pavement on it. Does it have grip or not? Again, I think that's where the question marks kind of lie. It will be interesting to see what it races like. It's definitely going to take a lot of us to move around a little bit to kind of burn in some of those lanes and be able to make it get a little bit wider. I don't foresee us ripping the boards like what I was hoping for coming back here, like we did at one point at the racetrack. But at the same time, it has potential. We just have to get it there.
Go to Nate.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Justin, kind of following up on that, knowing that the brand for this track was sort of racing from the wall to the white line, and it appears that's going to be changed. And what you were saying about having a cup race here, and the 2024 schedule came out kind of late, and it seemed like this place entered the mix a little bit late, and there's a lot of uncertainty about what 25 looks like. Like, how much are you rooting for a good race Sunday night? How important is that to the future of maybe keeping a cup race here?
Well, the fact that there isn't pavement from top to bottom probably doesn't help the uncertainty of what this looks like for 2025 and beyond, right? As somebody that has grown up coming here for pretty much since it opened, right, and racing here since it opened, I mean, I think ARCA was one of the first, if not the first series to race on here back in 2005, 2006. So, as somebody that's come here basically since it's opened, I think it would be really disappointing if it kind of is a flash and goes away after a year, right? We all know that resurfaces are really hard to manage. They're hard to navigate. Does that mean that the racing won't be fantastic this weekend? No, I think it has the potential to. We just have to figure it out, right? But even if the new pavement isn't exactly what we want, I hope that we get some time on it and let it kind of season in and get a couple of years down the road before we jump to conclusions that, hey, this isn't where we need to have a cup race, because I do feel like it has all the right features to make a good cup race, right? Like, this place races more like a mile and a half. I always say it races like California, which is really odd because California is 3 times the size of this racetrack. But the way that you race it, the way that the bumps were, and kind of the balance of the racetrack, being able to go from the top to the bottom, it raced a lot like California to me. That being said, with the Cup car, that would be the perfect scenario, right? If we could have a short track that raced like a big track, I mean, that literally would answer all the problems that we have on the aero side of things. So, my hope is that we can get through some of those earlier times and have a really, really good racetrack, in the future that I feel like would be a great racetrack for not only the Xfinity Series, which it has been, but also for the Cup Series.
A quick follow-up, because you were talking about like that this is a racetrack in the middle of the cornfields, and that sounds like something you're accustomed to, having grown up in this region. Yeah. Like, what does that mean? Like, what is? I guess take me through like what being a Midwestern race fan is like, and having these tracks that sprout out in the middle of nowhere in these cornfields.
Yeah, I mean, we're very lucky in the fact of living in the Midwest or growing up in the Midwest that, you know, you can kind of throw a rock and hit a short track somewhere, right? Every Friday and Saturday night you can go race, and a lot of these facilities are in areas like this. They're in rural areas where there's a lot of farming going on. I feel like that blue-collar working family is really what has grown this sport over the last decades of racing. And, you know, these are the type of racetracks where every Friday and Saturday night, you know, I grew up going and racing or growing up watching that. And you know, this one's a little bit different. I mean, it's obviously right off of an interstate. I've never seen them put an exit in really for a racetrack. That's kind of what happened. I don't know how much of an exit was there before. I never came through here before. But, you know, obviously with the racetrack being here, there's some hotels and some gas stations and stuff that built up. But really, I mean, we're, 40 minutes from downtown Des Moines. Obviously pretty large city, right, and has all the things that you would have. No different than a Nashville, right, where you're 30, 40 minutes outside of the city. But this one, just for whatever reason, is kind of stayed the way that it is. It stayed true to what it is. It's a lot of farming going on up and down the interstate right around here, and it's been kind of fun to watch that, right? I mean, the fans come out in droves. You know, when we used to race here, I mean, the first however many years was sold out completely. You know, every time we'd come here, and it was for good reason, right? Racing was great. They did a great job with the facilities. It was easy to get in and out of, or easier than some of the other places, and they packed the grandstands, and my hope is that we could get back to that. You know, I feel like this racetrack was built kind of right size as far as like attendance goes, right? It obviously wasn't here in the 90s and early 2000s, and so it was kind of built in that right size. And I don't know, I think from a driver standpoint and from a fan standpoint, I feel like it checks all the boxes, right? Now, that doesn't always mean that that's exactly what you need, right? There's other things that go into it, but I do feel like it checks all the boxes for me, and hopefully we can prove that this weekend.
Any final questions for Justin? All right, Justin, thanks for joining us. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
All right, there's the great